Hello, today we are going to explain Chapter 7 for LS students, the immune response, and more specifically, the non-specific immune response. First, as a quick introduction, what is immunology? Immunology is the science that studies the immune system or the mechanisms of defense of the body against foreign elements. Now, what is the role of our immune system? The immune system protects us against pathogens and cancer. This protection is divided into the recognition of the pathogen and the immune response triggered against this pathogen. Thus, the introduction of a foreign element will trigger two types of responses. A non-specific immune response called innate response, which is non-specific to a pathogen and is found in all plants and animals. This innate immunity is triggered within few hours following the invasion. Whereas the second type of immune responses is the adaptive immune response or the delayed immune response, which is pathogen specific. It is selective. It is only found in vertebrates, and it involves B and T lymphocytes, whereas the innate immunity involves the granulocytes, mainly neutrophils, and the phagocytes. So, the innate immunity is considered as the first line of defense against non-self pathogens or intruders because it is triggered few hours following the entry of the intruder. Whereas the adaptive immunity takes place when the innate immunity fails to eliminate the intruder. That's why the adaptive immunity is called or considered as a second line of defense against pathogens or intruders. In our session today, we'll discuss together the innate immune response. So, the innate immunity is characterized by, first of all, the natural barrier or the barrier defenses that are the skin. The skin is colonized by good bacteria. These bacteria will compete with the harmful ones and will prevent the entry of the harmful bacteria inside the skin. We have also the mucosal membrane. We have lysosomes, enzymes found in tears, in the saliva, and the mucus that destroy several types of bacteria. We can also list the gastric juice, since it is acidic, so the acidic pH will destroy most bacteria. We have also the sweat. Sweat, since it is also acidic, can destroy most bacteria. We can state also the vaginal secretions or the semen. They contain antioxidant and antimicrobial substances. We can also state in the natural barriers the mucus found in our respiratory tract and the ciliated cells that will engulf the microbe and expel the microbe outside the body. And finally, we have the commensal flora of our intestine. In our intestine, we have good bacteria that can protect our digestive system from any attack. So these are the natural barrier involved in the innate immunity. Now, the innate immunity is manifested by two major processes: the inflammatory response or the inflammatory reaction, and the phagocytosis. We will discuss these two phenomena in the next slides. Also, in the innate immunity, we have secretion of antimicrobial proteins like interferons and complement discussed later. We have a type of immune cells also involved in the innate immunity, which are the natural killer cells. They are targeted towards the viruses and the cancer cells. And for phagocytosis, we have the neutrophils, the macrophage called the big eaters. We have also the eosinophils, which are parasite destroyers, and we have cells called dendritic cells. Now, for the manifestation of the innate immune response, we have first the inflammatory response. The inflammatory response comprises 4 signs, which are the redness, the heat, swelling, and pain. In fact, a few hours after an injury or after the entry of an intruder, the wound or the tissue becomes red and swollen and feels hot and painful. These signs are the same, are common for all cases of infection. Now, when the pathogen or the microbe appear or enters the tissue, the infected tissue, as well as the microbe and the macrophage, will secrete signaling molecules called cytokines. These cytokines will cause an increase in the blood vessels diameter. You see the enlargement of the blood vessel following the entry of the microbe and the secretion of cytokines. So these cytokines induce an increase in the blood vessel diameter. This increase is called vasodilation, an increase in the diameter of blood vessel. This vasodilation induces an increase in the blood flow towards the infected tissue. This increase in the blood flow causes redness and heat. Heat due to the friction of cells while circulating in the blood. Cytokines also increases the permeability of the blood vessels. So when the blood vessels are more permeable, there is a leakage of plasma. The blood liquid will pass to the infected tissue, carrying the phagocytes. So there is a movement of fluid from the blood to the infected tissue, carrying also the phagocytes, which are the macrophage and the neutrophils. The cytokines will attract the phagocytes. We talk about chemotactism. So the cytokines are chemotactic. They attract phagocytes to the infected site. Now the movement of the phagocytes from the blood vessel to the infected tissue is called diapedesis. The increase in the permeability of the membrane of the blood vessels and the movement of fluid and the white blood cells will cause the swelling and the pain, the sensation of pain. Why there is a sensation of pain due to the tissue compression, which derives from the movement of fluid and the phagocytes. Now, the phagocytes are at the site of the infection. They will phagocyte the bacteria. So phagocytosis is the second manifestation of the innate immunity. As a quick recap, the first manifestation of the innate immunity is the inflammatory response, characterized by redness, heat, swelling, and pain. These four signs are common. They appear in all cases of infection, like otitis, dental abscess, etc. So since these signs are not specific for a type of intruder, we can say that inflammatory response is non-specific. It doesn't depend on the identity of the intruder. These signs are caused by cytokines. Cytokines are chemical molecules secreted by macrophages and the infected tissues and the microbe. The cytokines will increase the blood vessel permeability and the blood flow toward the infected tissue, and they will attract the phagocytes, and after that the phagocytes will phagocyte the virus. So the movement of the phagocytes is called diapetesis. Passing to the second manifestation, phagocytosis. Phag in eat, cytosis means cell. Phagocytosis is a non-specific immune response ensured by granulocytes, mainly neutrophils, and macrophages. During this process, these cells come near the microbes, adhere to them, engulf and digest them without identification of their nature. That's why phagocytosis is called non-specific immune response. So, as we can see in the first figure, the macrophage approaches the bacteria. It comes near the bacteria. It's the first step of phagocytosis called adherence. Now, the second step is absorption. The macrophage surrounds the bacteria and absorbs them. After absorbing the bacteria, the macrophage engulfs the bacteria and digests them. It's the third step of phagocytosis. In the third step, once the bacterium is inside the macrophage, it will be digested by lysosomes. Lysosomes, they secrete hydrolytic enzymes that can degrade bacterium. Now, after digestion, three possible cases may appear. The first case, the bacterium is totally digested and its wastes are eliminated and the infection regresses. Now, in the second case, following the digestion, the macrophage cannot digest totally the bacteria since the bacteria is resistant or the macrophage lacks hydrolytic enzymes. So in this case, the bacterium remains intact in the macrophage, but it may multiply later on. Once the bacterium multiply, we pass to the third case, to the severe case, and the bacterium will multiply. There is formation of pus, العمل, and the macrophage or the neutrophil will die. And thus here the infection persists. And if the infection persists, we need a specific immune response in order to eliminate the bacterium. So phagocytosis is a non-specific process because it doesn't depend on a recognition of the intruder's identity. Now, the immune response always begins with a non-specific reaction that may be followed by a specific one where when the immune response or phagocytosis or the non-immune response fails to eliminate the intruder. When the intruder becomes resistant, in this case, the specific immune response takes place. The mechanism of the specific immune response will be discussed in a second video. Thank you so much.